Hello, I'm Michael Lehmann-Horn from Edius.net, and I'm here in Kobe, Japan, at the Grass Valley office where Edius is developed. And I have with me Alex, the product manager from Edius. And Alex, I have some questions for you from basically the Edius community about the future of Edius and how everything is going with the development of Edius 10. But before talking about Edius 10, I would like to know a little bit about the history of Edius 9, because Edius 9 has been introduced in 2017 at IBC, so over 2 years ago. And in the beginning, we have seen new features, especially in the area of HDR. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about those features.
Yeah, so from the beginning of Edius 9, our focus was mainly first to provide a proper workflow for editing HDR. So it was a very new concept that started to come in, but it started to become very important together with the fact that there were a lot of new cameras supporting HDR, and also the 4K broadcast started in regions like in APAC where HDR was a requirement. So our main purpose in Edius 9 was to be able to first provide a proper HDR workflow. So which that meant was maintaining first the new primary color correction filter to properly be able to handle HDR sources, both HDR and SDR sources, also allowing it to be converted to one another or to any type of lot to be said, and also to be able to provide a good way to preview the HDR while you're working. That's including the monitor that you see on the screen and also the external monitors. So being able to export HDR properly as a file and also through SDI was also a big aspect of when we started version 9.
I spoke to a Sony product manager recently, and he told me that every time he is showing his HDR capable cameras, he is explaining it together with Edius, because basically everything works with Edius. Even if you export the HDR film, you can play it back from the camera on a HDR monitor, or when you're editing, the monitor will get the HDR flag, so it will automatically switch in the right mode. And I think Edius is the only editor which supports basically any kind of HDR monitor to switch, like these professional ISO Canon monitors, or with the flag, basically any kind of monitor which accepts that, hello, I'm HDR. So that is quite impressive. Basically, I think the Edius community knows when you do something, then you do it properly. So maybe HDR was not so easy because it has many aspects. So during the whole life cycle of Edius 9, we could see was almost every version there were some new functionalities included. I also remember the scopes, which then became had the possibility to show nits, and beside that they got other functionalities, like there were some RGB parade and other possibilities, right?
Yes, and also we were busy in catching up with the new cameras that came out from major manufacturers. Most of them included new functionalities surrounding HDR. So new cameras coming from Sony, Canon, Nikon. Also cameras from sort of our competitors like Blackmagic, or also other prosumer devices like GoPros and drones. They all included support for HDR. So even if you're only creating contents for SDR, it was very important that you were able to bring in these all different types of HDR sources and properly edit them. So if you wish to edit in HDR, you can, but also you can convert them correctly to SDR if that's what your target format is.
Right. And you have this kind of special conversion, which is not just changing the color space, but also can automatically, in a way, correct this very bright picture into a normal picture. I think that is very useful for many users who are not really like HDR grading specialists.
Yeah, so that was one of the big items that we did for version 9.
And in regards to format supports, it's maybe the other very big thing, or maybe it's even the biggest thing in Edius 9, that you practical support now any kind of format which is in the market. I mean, even the very special ones, like all these different kinds of RAW formats. And I think you can say right now, Edius is the only editor in the market which supports them all.
Well, I wouldn't, how do you say, declare ourselves as the best, but we try to keep up with the latest cameras that come out. And also, yes, we were able to introduce also some new format support, such as ProRes export, which was another big item for us when we supported that last time. So yeah, and we are continuing to keep up with the new cameras that are continuing to come.
Well, I guess, well, you're Japanese, so you're a bit shy saying that, but I mean, there is no other editor in the market who supports right now ProRes RAW and Blackmagic RAW, for example. Very easy, and those two formats have been very popular just in last year. Yeah, so in many cases, even when people just want to try a new camera and they want to see what the camera does, well, Edius is full of help, because it's not only importing the format, it also can like transcode, or not even transcode, it can just move the colors where you want them to be, because you switch the project setting and automatically with a primary color correction, the format is recognized and changed. So that is pretty good for not being like, Edius is not a grading software, but it does practically do all these formats. So.
Yeah, it is our key feature, and also we try to keep up with, so to say, the reputation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then you mentioned ProRes, and that is it's the real Apple ProRes support which is in, and it's even also what other editors can't do. It's allowing to export with alpha. Many people don't know that, but I mean, you can do an animation in Edius with using objects, and they are flying around, and behind the video is just nothing. And if you export that, it still is nothing there. So when you import it again, then you can overlay it. So you can do animations, use then like animated lower thirds, something like that. Very easily, and Edius can do that, and even export that, for example, in ProRes 4444 with alpha.
Yes, that's been one of the reasons we supported added support for ProRes 444 at the later release. Yes.
Yeah, and talking about like Apple formats, even QuickTime formats, which has been in a way outdated because there were these security things with QuickTime Player. The very popular animation codec, which is also not supported in many editors, is simply natively in Edius now. And I think that is high value, especially for those customers who in the past bought assets which they can use for animation, and then suddenly Apple said, no, you're not allowed anymore, we are not like fixing bugs for Windows 10. That has been a big issue, but you brought all these formats back in.
Yes, so that's also one of the things we continue to work on. And at one time, after removing QuickTime, we had required a couple of releases to catch up with the missing format, so to say. But I believe we're now mostly caught up, and we have the support that we did compared to before removing QuickTime.
Yeah, and also, again, compared to others who simply didn't do that and said, well, it's Apple's fault if they removed that functionality, but you just replaced it with your own technology. So, but beside that, I mean, we have these two big things, format support, which even, when we talk about the latest release, you just did Edius 9.5.2 recently, and you have added support for the latest Canon cameras like the 1DX Mark III and the C500 Mark II. And the C500 Mark II allows proxy editing or proxy recording at the same time while it records RAW. And Edius is now also supporting that.
Yes. Yep. Proxy support has actually been a sort of a hidden available feature for Edius for a long time, and we supported proxy coming with like Sony or Sony XT-Cam or Panasonic P2 camera. So it wasn't really, how do you say, that big of a jump for us to support it. But yeah, we're happy now that we can also say that the Canon proxies are supported too.
Right. Yeah, you do it. You have been doing that for Panasonic, and I think especially support for Sony XAVC is also very good. Like you can use these cameras; they upload automatically proxy files by using FTP or LTE dongle, something like that, and the editor can start directly with the proxies. And then as soon as the footage comes in, and when I saw it for the first time, I was really amazed. The system asks, here's the high-res footage. Do you want to exchange that? And then whoop, everything becomes high-res. In other editors, you have to like copy, replace, rename, hello, this, that file. Here, it simply is working. I think that is done in a way how it should be.
Well, it's also thanks to the help from the camera manufacturers themselves of giving us the correct information.
Probably the Japanese guys can work proper together, right?
Give us an advantage there, yes.
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, we're in the Osaka Bay. On the other side of the bay, there is Panasonic, for example, so you're very close.
Yes, Panasonic, and also, companies in Tokyo. We work also very closely with too.
Okay. And I mean, beside those two big things, like the broadest camera support, format support, and HDR support, there were some wishes from the Edius community. So, for example, we reported from end users. Basically, we collected wishes, and the wish number one was audio sync for multicam, where you probably always said in the past, well, if you do multicam, you probably have a time code, and then this syncing by time code has always been in Edius, so it's very easy, just use the time code. But with the new cameras like DSLRs or even mobile phones, it gets tricky. So
So definitely trying to sync a multicam project with those kind of, non-professional cameras that do not have time code, that's always been sort of an important item for us. And multicam editing is a key part in Edius. So obviously, being able to support that kind of other ways to sync the clips has actually gone up as a priority. And also the voices that we heard from our customer base has influenced us to put it on as a priority. So we've been able to announce the support for supporting audio sync with the clips at our 9.5 release last year.
Yeah, and again, it has been done in a very proper way. Yeah, you rearrange the way how to build a multicam project, and even the possibility, many people don't know that, you can use different frame rates in a multicam project, or basically different codecs, different cameras, different resolutions, different color space, everything. Just sync it, and then it works together in the same timeline. And even though if you later have another camera which you also want to attach, you can just add that. I think that is a workflow which is really much better than even people what they expected to do. So I think that sometimes you do things in a way that we can say it's really well engineered. Yeah, it's not just a function so that we can say, we have that also, but it's really, okay, you look at it and then you do it in a way that later it's absolutely stable, and it is in a way that it works as it should. So
our software development team sort of, sometimes I kind of think we kind of overdo it on certain things, but we try to, when we do new things, we try to do it properly. And I hope that this feature implementation also kind of worked out well.
Yeah, and there were other wishes from the community, like the support for having the possibility to output 4K 50p via the I/O, which now is possible with different hardware which is available for the workgroup version, or smaller things like more possibilities with the markers, that they have different colors or different functions. You also allow now to sync with the markers. And when we talk about those customer wishes, there were many small things which in the version 9 were fixed. We are always collecting customers' wishes, and often it's just small things, and you can, with the next release, you always fulfill like a handful of small things which are then included. But there have been in the past also wishes for like more bigger things where maybe a different kind of structure is needed. And that is something where everybody understands that cannot be done with a 9.53. There you need a little bit more. So now we are talking about basically 10. And we can do that, as you said, well, we are starting now development for the next version. And everybody who is buying Edius 9 now, and that started at IBC, so in September 2019, everybody who's buying Edius 9 after that time will get the next version. We simply say it's version 10 because after 9 it's 10. So what can Edius 9 users and all others expect from Edius 10?
Yeah, so first we have to apologize that this is taking such a long time. As you mentioned, it's been about 3 years since the last release, and cycle-wise, it's about a time we need to release the next version. But yes, like as you said, there are a lot of, fundamental things that we need to change to move on. And I think we all kind of agreed upon that that's something that it's required to do. So it's been about 20 years since we first started thinking about Edius, and we released the first version at around 2002, 2003. Yeah. So it's come around to the time that we needed to sort of look into or the deeper areas of Edius to sort of rethink a lot of things, and which actually will end up allowing us to support many of the sort of the big requests that we have from our customers, and that we haven't been able to do yet before. So that's being worked on right now, and hopefully within this year we'll be able to release a new version that will have these fundamental changes.
Well, I'm sure if you plan it, then usually you do it. I know you have to be vague because Edius 10 is not even announced yet. So we are still in an area, and you just like 2 weeks ago have released another Edius 9 update with like quite many features, even for some customers, very important features. But still, when we talk about structural things, I mean, what aspect can that mean to?
So basically, the key area is that Edius was originally designed to be a standalone software, so to say. So back in the days where computers were, a single item where it's not widely connected to the web, or especially when you're editing, you were working inside a sort of a concluded environment, where a single environment not connected to the outside. Where now, during the 20 years, the connection capabilities expanded. We have more things that we can do. Even on the cloud, we have much more smaller machines which have powerful CPUs and processing capabilities. All these new aspects came in that helped us to sort of think about a new design of where Edius can become more of a combination of various components, like a source database and a source and various types of modules like the editor or the transcoder or the browser, which actually we already have as a product, such as Mink or XRE transcoder already. But by providing these items and also redesigning the Edius core to become more of a sort of a database structure will allow us to provide a much more sort of a wider variation of solutions that we can provide to our customers. So I'm speaking in a little bit vague term, but I think though at the end, I don't want people to worry that we're not going to suddenly, provide Edius as a service, or we're not going to change how we provide Edius to the customer. We will continue with the next version to provide Edius as a standalone software, but also at the same time, more broader capabilities and functionalities to the customers, where it allows people to work together more easier, or utilize other machines or other systems that are available as resource.
Okay. Yeah, maybe if you can't say too much, my ideas about that, and that, of course, we are collecting wishes, and we see that the what could be possible when you're speaking, like you have the transcoder engine and the editor separated, then things like background rendering would suddenly be possible, or even many people are very interested in these systems which have like many cores or powerful GPUs, and by putting things in different like processes, you can use the power of a system much more intense, because some calculations don't allow to use like everything at the same time, but splitting it up will bring more power, not even if you're working in a work group, so with many people just on one system and with your one editor, you even will have more power. I think that is something that is the request we often get from customers in different aspects, but I think it's a structural thing, and that you're now working on that sounds very good. So I guess we will see something very nice. Speaking of that, we are here in the front of the Grass Valley logo. Everybody knows the Grass Valley logo. Right now, it still has something below the logo, because the owner of Grass Valley used to be Belden. And now there has been some change, because the company Black Dragon, they are now buying Grass Valley from Belden, and there have been rumors that is very critical or something. I personally see that is not the first time Grass Valley gets a new owner. We have had plenty, even in the time under Edius has been developed. So I don't see big problems, especially it's not a merger where everything changed and you get new people in, and so it's just a new owner. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about your perspective to getting a new owner.
Well, so what we like to emphasize is Edius is going to be Edius. And as you mentioned, so we've already been through several ownerships, and we just, kept doing what we did with Edius. And the things that we have been doing, like focusing on software, trying to expand to the cloud, all the things that we're doing, we feel it is, synchronizing with what we hear from our new ownership. And also, for some people who may know, our new owners are very, knowledgeable about our market, which is the editing, broadcast editing, professional editing market. They have had experience in the past of owning other companies that are strong in the market. So we feel that we finally have a new owner that would understand sort of our target market, and that will allow us to also focus more on what we are doing, and also get help on.
Let it say me in my words. I mean, the difference between somebody who has been working for a company in the past, who is providing editing software, knows probably much more about the business and also the value of your group doing Edius than a company selling cables. Sorry about but I mean, with all respect, and also it's not that Belden didn't earn good money with Grass Valley. It's just a completely different business, and it took them some time to understand. Okay, maybe we are not the best match with this kind of business, because it's a completely different business, and that's why they are selling Grass Valley. So may I sum up this? Your perspective is a very positive.
Yes, of course. We're always positive, so to say. We continue to do what we do. Edius, thanks to all our users and customer base, we're still standing strong, and we like to continue what we do right now and to expand, more functionalities and more features to our customer base.
Sounds great. Maybe just the last word about, you said it before, how is Edius being sold in the future? There were some rumors that people say, this is now going all into the cloud and subscription and so on. But what will happen, with Edius 10? Is Edius 10 subscription only in the future, or?
No. So as I mentioned, we will keep the current method of how we're providing our products, and
so you buy it, you keep it, right?
We will keep that structure. We will probably provide more different options on how to purchase or how to use our products, which includes maybe usage in the cloud, or maybe sort of
what you already provide since 3 or even 4 years. Right?
Yes. So. And we already provide Edius licenses in very flexible ways to various customers, types of customers, if they're a big broadcast station group, or if they have a large facility with many clients. We provide different types of licensing formats and how to purchase Edius. So we will continue to be flexible, but our key mainstream will be selling, as a product that you can own and continue to use.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alex, for this interview and also the perspective, which is a very positive one. I also want to mention at this time again, the Edius 9 Plus promotion is still running. It continues to run, basically, I guess, until Edius 10 will be released. So if you buy Edius 9 now, you will also be able to use Edius 10 at no additional price, and you will get all future Edius 10 upgrades as it has been in the past with Edius 7, 8, 9. The same, so when there will be 10.1, 10.2, you will get these additional features. But I understand this time we will have maybe an even stronger start with the new version, because there's something great going to happen inside, which allows to do more things for everybody. So thank you very much, and a good time developing Edius 10.